What's up, Green Bay Packers fans? Welcome back, and as always, thank you for joining me. My name is Paul Bretto. Today, we're here to discuss the Green Bay Packers offensive line, who is coming off its best performance since Week 1 against the Chicago Bears, and just the overall importance of that position group to the offense's success. But first, hit like on the video, hit subscribe on the YouTube channel. I do greatly appreciate it. You can follow me on Twitter at Paul_Brettel, and you can find all my work over at Packers Wire. So as I mentioned, we're here to discuss the offensive line because we saw this past Sunday against the LA Rams when this group is playing even decently well, doesn't have to be great, but decently well, just the positive trickle down effect that has to the rest of the offense. It's amazing what can happen when there is an actual run game for this Green Bay Packers offense to lean on. That's what they had against the LA Rams. Coming into that game, Packers were averaging just 3.8 yards per rush this season. I believe that ranked 22nd in the NFL. And honestly, even that 3.8 figure was inflated by a number of big scrambles by Jordan Love. The running backs themselves have not even found that level of success this season. But against the Rams, this group put up 184 rushing yards. And I think an important aspect of that performance, and we'll get to the trickle-down effect of it, is that it showcased that it doesn't have to be these big chunk runs over and over and over again in order for an offense to truly feel the ripple effects of what the run game can do for it. Aaron Jones averaged 3.7 yards per rush. A.J. Dillon averaged 4.4. The Packers as a team had only one rush of 10 or more yards. Again, there doesn't have to be these 8, 10, 12-yard runs consistently for the overall effectiveness of the running game to take place. What needs to happen is you need those 4 or 5-yard runs to keep the offense ahead of the sticks, put them in second and manageable, third and manageable situations. And that's what this Packers offense had against the Rams. We know that they've been living in these second and long, third and long situations. And the trickle down of that is the passing game, which isn't nearly consistent enough, strong enough to shoulder the workload in those obvious passing situations, is at a very disadvantageous spot. The defensive front is able to pin its ears back. The defense as a whole can get into favorable matchups. The secondary can play more aggressively on the cornerbacks or on the receivers. And again, it just puts the first-time starting quarterback, Jordan Love, this young group of pass catchers, in a very disadvantageous situation. And that's where this offense has been living for a large portion of the season. Matt LaFleur said after the Vikings game, where they experienced a lot of second and third and long situations, whether oftentimes it was due to penalties, but if the run game can't get going, incomplete pass on first down, they couldn't even get into the full game plan that they had worked on and tried to implement throughout the week. However, we saw the flip side of all of this against the Rams this past Sunday. The run game was able to get going good enough to where the offense could lean on it. It put them in 2nd and 5, 2nd and 6, 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, manageable situations that for Matt LaFleur as the play caller, one, allows him to get into that game plan, but also allows him to dive deeper into his playbook. I asked Jordan Love about it after the game. I said, when you have that run game to lean on, what does that do for you as the quarterback for the passing game? He just says it opens up opportunities everywhere, but particularly downfield. And not coincidentally, when there was that run game to lean on, we actually saw a very efficient version of Jordan Love. Love completed overall 20 of his 26 pass attempts, averaged 8.8 yards per attempt, a very, very good number. And on passes of 20 plus yards, he was 2 for 3 on those attempts as well. So again, it was a very efficient performance from Jordan Love. He entered that game ranked, I believe, 32nd on pass attempts of 10 to 19 yards, 33rd on pass attempts of 20 plus. And again, he was 2 for 3 on those 20 plus attempts, 6 of 8 on passes of 10 or more yards. So in large part, it was because the Packers had that run game to lean on, help set up play action, help keep them ahead of the sticks and out of obvious passing situations, which takes away some of the bite of the defense. Also, a part of that equation, the offensive line did a fantastic job when Green Bay was passing to give Jordan Love time in the pocket. Over the previous 4 games, he had been pressured on the 4th most dropbacks of all quarterbacks in the NFL. However, this game, and these are PFF's numbers, he was pressured on just 7 of his 31 dropbacks. That's a pressure rate of just about 22%. Anytime you're below 25%, your offensive line has done a fantastic job. And again, we saw the positive effects of that for Jordan Love in the passing game. Again, if going back to that Vikings game, Jordan Love mentioned afterwards that he wasn't as decisive as he had been early on in the season, and I was thinking back to training camp, and that was honestly one of the most impressive aspects of his game throughout the summer and even early on in the season that really stood out. He knew when to fit the ball into the tight window, when to push it downfield, when to continue through his progression and take what was available. And we saw that throughout the summer. We saw that early on in the year. But over this last month in particular, where things have not gone well for this Packers offense, we've seen that decisiveness of his regress. And to a degree, who could blame him? I mean, his receivers are dropping passes. They aren't in the right spots. The routes are being run wrong. The offensive line pass protection was not good. That's going to lead to some hesitancy rather than just trusting what you see, that your guy's going to be there, that he's going to make the play and just letting it rip. So again, when the run game is working, the offensive line is giving him time in the pocket. We saw a more decisive version of Jordan Love. We saw a better decision maker in Jordan Love. And for the receivers, that additional time for Love to have that extra half second or full second, which in the NFL is a lifetime, that's a lot of extra time for these receivers to get open, to create some additional space and create some easier, hopefully easier passing catch opportunities for Jordan Love, where not everything has to be a 50-50 ball. Not everything has to be, try to be completed into these tight windows. So that was the play of the offensive line is what sparked everything for this Packers offense against the Rams. And this week against the Pittsburgh Steelers, we're going to find out if that was a outlier performance against the Rams or if this is a unit that's starting to trend in the right direction now that they're getting healthier. This is a Steelers defense that features TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith at the edge rusher positions, both ranked top 15 among edge rushers in total pressures this season. As a defense as a whole, the Steelers rank 6th in pressure rate as well. They're giving up 4.7 yards per carry this season, so that has been an area where they've been susceptible. But nonetheless, this offensive line, the tackles in particular, are really going to be stressed by the Steelers' edge rushers. And as we just mentioned, everything that we just went through and how that impacts the rest of the offense, them being able to hold up against this front, find some sort of success in the run game, and Jordan Love having time in the pocket is going to be absolutely crucial. Now, before we wrap up, I want to parlay this into one other somewhat related conversation. As we all know, Sean Rhyan stepped in for a drive during the Rams game for Sean Rhyan, who was sidelined during that, being evaluated for an injury. And Ryan looked really good. These were his first NFL snaps of his career, a second-year, third-round pick. These were his first NFL snaps. And again, he looked really good. The Packers ran, I believe, on 6 of the 7 plays that he was in the game. And what he brings to this offensive line is he's a people mover. Like the Packers, they don't have a ton of people movers. Sean Rhyan is a people mover in the run game, uses his physicality, his size, his strength, and the Packers found a lot of success in the run game when he was on the field. Now, he was in for Sean Rhyan, who has been very, very up and down this season. Might even be the most inconsistent member of this Packers offensive line this season. So there's been some, if seen on Twitter, for example, some pontificating on whether Sean Rhyan should step in for Sean Rhyan, given, and again, the small sample size, but the performance that Ryan had in compared to, again, the inconsistent play that Rhyan has had this season. I see why, one, that would make sense, why the Packers could go down that path. We just talked about the performance of the two players, but also this is an evaluation year. Sean Rhyan is going to be a free agent. If he's not a part of the Packers' future plans in 2024 and beyond, you might as well get a look at what you have in Ryan, who again is a second-year, third-round pick who just had his first NFL snaps. To a degree, you would like to know, if you're the Packers, what's his role going to be going into next season? Is he someone who could compete for playing time? Is he someone who could provide you with a reliable backup that could come in a pinch and give you snaps like he did on Sunday? Or is he someone that might not even be on the team this time a year from now. I know that they have obviously a better idea of where he is as a player than what we do. They obviously see him in every day, the film breakdowns, how he operates within the building, all of that stuff. But as we know as well, practice and games are two completely different things, and they need to see more of him before ultimately knowing what they have in him. So for that reason alone, I think there is a strong argument to be made in terms of why Sean Rhyan is deserving of more snaps moving forward. And as I mentioned, it's also not like John Runyon's been lights out by any means. However, while that makes sense, I don't think that's the path that the Packers are going to go down. I think that they are very, very much uh, firm believers and want continuity along the offensive line, and that is absolutely an underrated element to offensive line success. And the Packers have not had a lot of that this season. Since week one, the starting five that they've had on the field has been relatively the same. Last 2 weeks, we've seen Yash Nyman subbed in for Rasheed Walker against the Vikings. He got the start against the Rams, but some injuries that happened to Nyman in each of those games ended up with Rasheed Walker back on the field. But the other four members have been pretty much set in stone in terms of what the Packers offensive line looks like. However, in practice, there has not been much continuity at all. We know that Elton Jenkins missed those few games. He's missed practices. He's been a limited participant even when he has been back in practice or back in games. Josh Myers has missed some practices as well. He's been a limited participant as of even this week. Same with John Runyon. He's missed a few practices. He's been limited. Zach Tom, he's missed some practices and he's been limited. These guys, even though we are 9 entering week 10 of the NFL season, they have not had anywhere near the full capacity of practice reps that they could have had this unit been healthy. And also, as I just mentioned, they're coming off their best performance since week one. I don't see that being the time when this group, seems to be coming together, playing a little bit better football, that's going to be the time where the Packers all of a sudden decide to switch things up. I was talking to Zach Tom in the locker room this past Monday, asked him about the run game in particular. As an offensive tackle, when you guys have that part going, that part of the offense going, what does that do for you? He mentioned it takes a bit of the bite away from the pass rush because they got to defend both the run and the pass. He mentioned that it helps wear the defense down over the course of the game. And then my follow-up question to that was, what was different? What was different in this Rams game compared to what we had saw weeks prior when that offensive line unit was struggling? And he had talked about how everyone was on the same page. They were doing a better job of playing together rather than someone not being positioned correctly or struggling on a play that just blew everything up for everyone else. They were playing together. The communication was there. There was just this continuity aspect to it. And again, I think as guys are getting healthy, as Elton Jenkins is getting more healthy, Zach Tom getting more healthy, and they get those more practice reps together, I think, or I hope anyways, that we see that what we saw against the Rams becomes more the norm rather than more the outlier. So I think that continuity aspect I just dove into is really, really important. And I think that's why the Packers, at least for the time being, are going to stick with John Runyon. Now, if he continues to really struggle, if they end up losing the next 2, 3, 4 games, which is entirely possible, maybe they get to that point where it's like, all right, let's see what we have in Sean Rhyan. But for the time being, given the overall play of the unit on Sunday, that continuity factor, I think they're still going to stick with John Runyon for the time being. So there you have it, my friends. My thoughts on the Packers offensive line, the importance of it for this offense as a whole. If Jordan Love is going to find any sort of success, any sort of potential success moving forward, it starts with the play up front. What we saw against the Rams has to be the norm. Again, with less chaos around him, a run game to lean on, more time in the pocket, he looked like a pretty efficient quarterback. Now we need to see more of that. We need to see this offense build upon that performance. As always, I appreciate you guys tuning in. Hit like on the video, hit subscribe on the YouTube channel. I greatly appreciate it. You can follow me on Twitter at Paul_Brettel, and you can find all my work over at Packers Wire. So until next time, friends, take care, stay safe, and as always, go Pack Go.